Hi everyone, this is Penguin Trades. I trade the E-mini S&P and Nasdaq futures. You can see my chart setup in the description. As always, we're going to start with the S&P. I started trading at 8 a.m. Central Time, which is this area right here. Now, starting off, we have our overnight high up here, our overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. These levels will often come back and play. Today, we just kind of shot out the lows and took off and never really had to consider them much. But we did still get, after the breakout, a clear two-legged retest before taking off. So you really want to mark your levels, even though there's often days like today where it just takes off. Sometimes that one time that it does test it, you'll get a good trade off of it, which is what happened today. So anyway, starting off, again, like I said, 8 a.m. Central Time is when I start trading, right before we have these two legs up here. Now, you can see right here, there's a few legs pushing down, and then it gets choppy, and then you have another leg down. But really what you have here is just two legs down. So you can see one leg, it's on a bigger picture. As more price action forms, the legs will get bigger. You'll combine the legs to get bigger moves. And so you can see you have a leg down here, two-legged break, and then a second leg down here. Now, price ends up pushing up here, forming our overnight low. We get these two legs up. Now, even though the measured move is met, and it's, a second entry, first entry short, second entry short. Now, if, again, I'm just going to address this for anyone new. I see that there's a tick lower here, but I'm not going to view this right here as a second entry because you can see first entry short, second entry because of that tick lower. That is too small picture for me. I just see this one leg up, choppy, and then it pushes lower, and then you clearly get a second leg up there. So I just view it as first entry short, second entry short. Now, again, the measured move is met. It's a second entry, but you don't want to enter right into the overnight low level. You don't know that it's going to break out like that. It does end up breaking out. Again, not a good looking trade, but it does push out there. Now we break out, and you can expect price to attempt to fade. When price breaks out of an overnight level or a range level, you can expect it to attempt to fade back in. Now, and this is why you don't just immediately buy the breakout or short the breakout. You want to wait for two attempts to fade. That way you can get in on the fade failure, which is, of course, to get in with the breakout. And so we have a push up here, but then we make a new low, so we have to reset the count at this point and get two clear legs attempting to fade. And that's what we get here. We get a push up, a break, and a second push up, a clear measured two-legged move, retesting the overnight low with a good bearish reaction, clearly fading this smaller range that's been forming. So this is a great looking short right here. So we continue on lower here. One thing I want to mention is this measured move is still in play. And so, again, these measured moves act as magnets. And so considering you just got a two-legged retest of the overnight low, that makes it very ideal to go short here because, again, prices are attracted to these levels. They'll oftentimes bounce right off of them. Now, in this case here, it ends up just pushing on lower, and we ended up having a very bearish day all day. And so anyway, we push on lower here. Now, when you push off of the overnight low, you can get a bigger picture failed second entry. Like we had this little retest here, but you can get a bigger picture trade. Ideally, what we'd see here is a sharp push lower and then two clear legs back, because that would form, I'm just going to draw this out here really quick. So that would form this, a failed second entry. So first entry long, second entry long failure. And from that new low, we'd have two more attempts to fade, which means, it would be confluent with breaking out of the overnight low. Because this is, even though it's pretty clear legs there, you can still get a bigger picture attempt to fade. And so it's good to get, you can get a failed second entry that just pushes off of it here, basically reconfirming the breakout. And so that's why I would want to see something like that. But we just don't get that. Price ends up just taking off without, forming a good failed second entry. It just pushes on lower here. Now, you can see, let me just draw off this right here. You have this downtrend, break. Now, you're in an overall wider downtrend. These lows are fitting well. You get off those first two swings. These lows are fitting. And then you get this first entry short, second entry short. So you get two clear, the second leg isn't as big, but you still get two clear legs up. So this is because when you come off one side of a channel, you can expect price to attempt to reach the other side. And so you get your first attempt, second attempt, but just because you get the two attempts and it's holding off the EMA doesn't mean you immediately want to go short. Now, you have to, let me just draw this back up here. I accidentally got it off. I'm sorry about that. So considering this is a magnet and you can expect price to reach the other side and you haven't even met the measured move, you still don't want to go short, even though it has a bearish bar. You literally just bounced off of the low there. And so what you'd want to see is just at least another attempt at this measured move. That way you could have uptrend, break, first attempt higher, and then a second attempt higher, failure. So you would want to enter on a failure. This uptrend is still technically in play because break only has one attempt at a new high. So it's just not ideal. There's not a lot of room for another attempt anyway, especially with this EMA. It's kind of just getting sideways here. It really just doesn't set up well here. But that's why I don't like going short there. So anyway, we push on lower here. We get this lower high. We just kind of made this double bottom right here because we had that bounce there. We made a bounce there, pushed above the EMA, and then we get this bearish bar pushing back below. But again, it's literally right into this right here. And so price chops on that level for a while, but it does eventually push on down. We continue along with this downtrend here. We had a little pierce through there, but then it reconfirms there. So these lows are fitting very well here. Now, we push on up. We get this first leg up, break, second leg up, clear, two legs up. The measured move is still in play. I would want to see something below the EMA. It ends up getting a little bit choppy here. It does push below the EMA there, but considering it had held above the EMA right after pushing off one side of the channel and the measured move is still in play, it's not the most ideal. Now it looks all right if you want to try to enter with a limit order because there is clearly some resistance right here. As you can see, I'm not even talking about right there. I'm talking about right here, and then that's why it ends up holding. But the problem is that after this red bar formed, a green bar formed pushing back above the EMA. So this makes it not ideal for a short. Again, this is enough. This two-legged move is good enough. If you get a push below the EMA, you can look for a short. But considering this right here, you would need a limit order, and then it doesn't even trigger before you can put your limit order in. It just forms this green bar without ever triggering this red bar. And so, it just doesn't happen. And then when you get this bar here, it ends up just plummeting on down. There was no time for a limit. And after it reaches the support, then you cannot put your limit back up at that point because, again, it's basically acting like a range. And when you come off one side of a range, you can expect price to attempt to reach the other side. And so you wouldn't want to just let it bounce there and then put a limit order back. And so anyway, eventually as you get more price action, you can look to extend the range. I extended it down here after it kind of started forming some resistance down there. And so anyway, we get this push down. Notice as soon as that measured move is met, price immediately started pushing back lower here. Now, it would have been great if we got a good lower high. We get this one right here, but I would want to see a more clear swing. We do tick higher there, and then it ends with a green bar. It's just a little small picture. I would want to see a push below and then a much clearer swing, not just a tick higher right there. So anyway, it ends up pushing on lower here, though. We push on lower, we get this break, so downtrend, break, push to a new low. So this downtrend has played out at this point with a break and a new low, so we can expect price to attempt to reverse. And we're also breaking out of this low right here. And so you can expect to fade back up, but what happens is we just find resistance right at the EMA, also at the range low, and then it gets very, very choppy here. And so really not ideal for a reversal. Also, it's extremely bearish at this point, and so you get this higher low, but I would want to see a good reversal pattern with room. So even though it's in a downtrend, I would take a long here if we get a good reversal pattern. But we just get the higher low, right after all this chop right here, you're basically expecting it to break out of this little, but this little range right here. I would want to see a push up, two clear legs back. But what happens is you get a push up, one leg back, and then as you get that second leg back, it ends up just plummeting on down. And so it doesn't give you a failed second entry. Now you get a couple legs down here. You can see those are measured, or at least almost measured, but you have clearly two legs down right here, and then you push on up. So two legs down led to a reversal. Very common thing to see. Notice this structure right here. This is where price started breaking out, and it broke out in a two-legged move. So that's an extremely common thing to see. Like even, right here, we had these two legs down right here, but after we broke out of the overnight low, we had a clear two-legged move, and then after the two-legged move, price had a very clear reversal attempt, which is what caused all of this chop right here. And so anyway, we push on lower here, we get this push on up. Now, if we push up and push through this trend line because we already have this trend line at this point. It's off those first two swings and it's been fitting well off the lows. So we already have this downtrend here, even though there's not a lot of reaction off the high yet. There is construction being done to my house right now, so I hope you can't hear that. But anyway, so at this point here, it starts finding some resistance. I'm thinking at this point it could be right off the trend line there, and it could just need some adjusting. And then I did adjust it around a little bit to see where it fit best exactly. And then I kept it off those lows, and then we formed this swing right here. Now, you have from here a two-legged move up. First leg up, second leg up. Now, this second leg is obviously not nearly as big as this first leg, but considering how bearish it's been plummeting all day. And then as soon as price reaches this trend line right here, which has had barely any reaction off the high, it immediately starts finding resistance. You get a good bearish bar with the extremely bearish momentum from the day. This looks like a great one-to-one trade. Notice it's just pushing below the EMA. This really looks good here. So anyway, we continue on lower here. We make this new low, and then as soon as we make it, price, you can see we have a sharp push up. Two legs here, but on a bigger picture, it's still one leg. So price action gets bigger as more time goes on. At first, you get two legs up right there, and then, on a bigger picture, it's just one leg up. And so anyway, we push on lower here. As soon as, this two-legged move up is completed, you get two legs down. Now, I just want to show here, this downtrend has a break. When a downtrend gets a break, you can expect price to attempt a new low. You already have our first attempt lower here, and then we get this lower high, which I thought was really good considering just how bearish this entire day was. Price just keeps on plummeting on down, and so when we can expect price to make a new low, that just only adds, probability to the shorts, just considering it's a downtrend day. And so I really liked that lower high right there. It had room to that previous swing. Great looking trade right there. It ends up making a full measured move. I think it's within one tick of reaching it, but that's basically a perfect measured move. And then price spikes up as soon as it's met. Now, this is a great place for a reversal pattern higher. Now, I just want to mention that this break to new low, the downtrend break and the two pushes to a new low is pretty small picture. And so what it looks like it's doing right now is this is the bigger picture break. So this reversal attempt that I just mentioned, that spike up, the reversal attempt is the bigger picture break, and price is pushing down to a new low from here. So at first I didn't mean to move that. So what at first was downtrend break, two attempts at a new low, failure, or not failure, it already made the new low, I meant to say reversal. So downtrend break, two attempts at a new low, reversal, is turning into downtrend, the entire thing downtrend now, including those two pushes down, and then this is the break, and then pushing down to a new low from here. So as you can see from the whole break, we have one attempt and two attempts, and it has not quite made a new low yet. So we'll see what happens. This is a good place for a reversal pattern higher to get along if it sets up well. It just does not happen here. After that spike up, it spikes back below the EMA, and then it struggles to get back above. But it clearly does, after that push up, it has a couple attempts higher. It's trying to make a reversal pattern here. It just cannot do it given how bearish the entire day is. But it ends up making another spike up, going past that measured move, and then it gets a little bit choppy here. Notice it's kind of going into this range. You can clearly see it. Let me just adjust this, get it perfect. So we have these highs very clearly holding, downtrend expecting a new low. So we'll see what happens. This low could be a little bit different. It might not be the very low. It might be right here because it matches with this bounce and this bounce. So we'll just see what happens. But we could possibly bounce off here and then I would not want to take a long off here just given how bearish the day is. But if price holds here and gives you a good failed second entry above the EMA, like a clear one, then I would be totally willing to take a long down here. But it has to be clearly reversing, and it needs room to the highs up here. And so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's going to do it for the ES. I'm going to hop over to the NQ, and we'll go over that. So starting off again, overnight high here, overnight low here. I start trading at this market at the exact same time as the ES. And so notice here, this is 8. We don't have those clear two legs up like on the ES, but we have one clear spike up, and then price just gets choppy. Now, there's a trade I missed right here. It's a very small trade, but it's a perfectly valid trade that I missed here, which is this short right here. So notice that, and the reason I missed it, I just wasn't quite focused at the time, but notice that this uptrend has a break, and we have 2 attempts at a new high. 2 pushes to a new high. With the bodies, it has made a new high. With the wick, not quite, but the bodies are more big picture, so that basically counts. And so the uptrend, and even if it didn't make a new high, it doesn't matter. You still have the 2 attempts at a new high, which you can get in on the failure of. You see? So uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher. Good bearish reaction. It's holding off these highs. It's been chopping through the EMA, so I don't exactly care about entering into the EMA here. It's just in this range. And so this looks good to ride to the other side, just to take a little short there. Now, I just want to mention that after it pushes up here, I do not like this short here. And the reason I don't like this short is because we just bounced off of the lows of this range and only had 1 push to the other side. We didn't get a 2-legged move. We just had 1 push after reaching the low. Now, we'd reached a low there, but that was part of this trend play out. Uptrend break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher. You can clearly tell that's a 2-legged move up. And this 2-legged move was part of the overall range formation anyway. So after this push lower here, what is expected to be, a reversal from this trend attempting to play out, if it can't even get through this range, what that's telling you is that this range is very strong, and you do not want to enter short right after a very bullish reaction off the low. Now it ends up pushing on lower here, but you don't know it's going to do that. As far as you can tell at this point here, this is a strong range that's unable to get pierced after this uptrend has its 2 legs to a new high. So you do not want to go short right here. But it ends up pushing on lower. We get this leg down. Now, I just want to mention here, I mentioned this in the in the last video. Even though we have some legs down here, this leg is breaking out of this structure right here. And so we get this 2-legged move from here. So first leg down, break, second leg down. And right as that measured move is met, price is immediately attempting to reverse. All right. So starting off here, we have this first leg up. It gets very choppy here. It gets pretty sideways. We get a second leg up. The measured move isn't quite met. Now, this right here, it is a 2-legged move, but it is also a double bottom, which often will count as a reset. And considering we had just met this measured move, like it fully met and then immediately reversing off of it, I did not want to take a chance on that short there. I would want to see 2 clear legs up with the measured move met, not a double bottom, which could be iffy. So I ended up skipping this here. Again, it mainly just has to do with the fact that this measured move has just been met, and it's very common to reverse off of that. Especially with this overnight low right here, these do act as magnets, so I just wanted something a little bit more safe. Now, here we push to a new low, and so we push to a new low, and then when we attempt to reverse, we get a very bullish spike above the EMA. Price for multiple bars in a row struggles to get back below. So I really did not like this here. This is not like over here. Like over here, I didn't care about entering into the EMA because it's been chopping straight through it. It's completely sideways at this point. But at this point here, one, it hasn't chopped through it, so it hasn't been weakened as much at this point down here. But the main concern is the fact that right after this new low / little fade of this range right here, we get a very bullish spike up, and then it just struggles to get below the EMA. So, it's just not ideal. But it does end up pushing lower here. We push lower, we get a little bit choppy here. Notice that we have this trend in play. We're holding right off of it as we push lower here. And then we push lower again, get more chop. Again, we're just kind of tapping this trend line, really not getting any clear trades or anything. But we push lower again, break out of this little range, and then we get this 2-legged move up. It's pretty choppy, but it's still clear. So first leg up, break, second leg up. It reaches this trend line right here, this upper range line, but there's really not a lot of room to enter to get out at these lows here, so this was a skip. Anyway, we push on lower here, get this new low, starts to get very choppy. You can see price attempts to reverse, but it ends up just going into this range right here. Now, we make this new low here, first leg up. It is a double bottom, but it is a 2-legged move again. Now, it's not perfect because of that double bottom, but on the other side of the count here, we have a triple top, 1, 2, 3 bounces around the same area right there. This last one is a little bit higher because it's fading this range right here. which works perfectly because of how bearish it is. Both of these markets were extremely bearish today. And so after that chop, these were the first two like more clear big legs up. And so when we get this very bearish reaction right here, I really liked this. And at this point, just like over here, the EMA has been chopped through more. We pushed up here, pushed back below, pushed back up, pushed back below, and then again pushed back up. So it's been chopping through the EMA, weakening the EMA, which means I didn't care about entering into it. Now, one thing here is like I said, I liked it even with the EMA, but this still was a limit order trade because if I'd entered all the way down here, which let me get that exact there. If I had entered all the way down here, I would have had to push it out of these lows. Now, I was not wanting to do that. I did want to keep it within this range right here. And part of it was because of how bullish that push up was. Now, again, overall, the context was very bearish, but even with a little thing like that, I'm not going to risk pushing it out of the lows here, especially when most of the resistance was really from this right here, not that low swing right here. So I just didn't want to do that. So I wanted a limit order, and that's what happened. So we pushed lower here, below that green bar. I didn't really like how that green bar held above the EMA, but sometimes little things like that are going to happen. But then we very quickly push back below. We get this pullback, ends up holding off this high here, and then we continue on lower. So I like this trade right here. We continue on lower. We go into this downtrend, and so now we have this other downtrend that's wide. So at first this one was the main downtrend, but then price had a shift, and then we're kind of just starting to go down this way now. At first the lows were right here. Notice that we're going into this right here. We get this downtrend here, break, so we can expect price to attempt a new low. No clear short here, it just kind of just pushes lower. You don't want to enter short inside of this trend right here, especially above the EMA. So nothing here, we just push to a new low. So the downtrend has played out. And then as we get these pierces for the wider downtrend, we can look to extend the lows. And so anyway, we push off the low here, we get this clear spike up. Now we want to see a second leg up to the other side in order to get a short off of this trend range. Now what happens is after this push up, we get a break, an attempt at a new high. It's just one attempt at a new high. It's not, it's rangy, but it's not like making clear resistance to take a short off of, but it is kind of going sideways here. So there's really nothing to go short here on. It's just a single attempt at a new high. What would have been great is if after this push up, attempting a new high, is if we get a little break from that and then a second attempt reaching this trend line right here, which I need to adjust it. It looks like it got a little bit out of place. But so yeah, a second leg up reaching that trend line, that could offer us a great short, but it just doesn't happen. So we have to be patient. Continues on lower here, and then we get a second leg up. So clearly these two legs are connected. Again, this second one is not nearly as big. Now the reason I don't like it, one, is because the measured move is not met and you're entering into this double bottom right here. That's really not ideal. I mean, it's not a perfect double bottom, but clearly there's some resistance right here, some kind of support right here, and I don't want to enter directly into that, directly into those lows, pushing it through with this measured move still in play. And so, it ends up taking off though. Push on lower here, get this little spot, this little overshoot of this trend right here. Now, overshoots commonly lead to breaks, and so it's very common to spike into a break after an overshoot, and then right after this overshoot, price spikes up, and then immediately pushes down and forms a double bottom. And so sometimes what'll happen is you'll make a double bottom, and that is, often that's what's called a bottoming pattern. Double bottom, triple bottoms, very common bottoming patterns before taking off in the other direction. But shortly after getting above the EMA here, it just immediately goes bearish again. Now, no, I do not like going short here, of course, even with these two legs up. First off, these bodies push below here, so this is basically a count reset at that point. But mainly, you're entering right into this double bottom, which is clearer than right here. This is, it's almost a double bottom. It's kind of just these lows in the same area you don't want to enter into. But this is like a full-on double bottom right here. You do not want to enter directly into that with this measured move still in play, but it ends up working. So we push on lower here, the price pushes out, we get a sharp spike up. Again, you can get a failed second entry as long as you have room. If you have room, there's clearly resistance here. If you push back above, get a couple legs back, you can get a long as long as it's holding above the EMA. It just doesn't happen. We push back below the EMA, gets very choppy. It's right inside of this resistance area here. That's why it's getting so sideways. It's really just not a good area. So anyway, push on up here. From this low, we have a two-legged move up. The second leg ends up just pushing on out of the trend, getting way bigger. Gets a little bit choppy as we push out, and so we have uptrend, break, push up to a new high, and then after that new high is met, price reverses back lower. Now, we can push lower, get a couple legs back, because if we make a failed second entry from here, say we get something like this, just going to draw this out real quick. Failed second entry. What this would include is the first attempt at a new low, and then a two-legged break from that, and then first entry long, second entry long, failure. And on that failure, you can look to get in on the second major leg at a new low. So then at that point, you would have downtrend, break, first attempt lower, second attempt lower. And so you'd have perfect confluence with the downtrend playing out on that failed second entry. But it just doesn't happen. So we just get this lower high right here. It's a lower high / double top. It's very close, but we continue on lower. Now, even from here with this double top, you can push into a failed second entry from there as well. But, as you can see, it doesn't happen. So we push on lower. It's starting to get choppy. We're kind of finding resistance at these previous lows right here. So we'll see what happens with that. That's going to do it for this video. I hope it helped out in some way, and thanks for watching. I'll see y'all next time.